everyone, Lucamus Prime here. So it is time for the next episode of Movie That Didn't Need a Sequel, and in today's video I'm going to cover this time an example of an animated film which in my opinion did not need sequels, and for me it is an example of an animated film where to me there's only one film. And this is also one of my favourite films by Disney in their Renaissance era, back when that company of course used to make great films of course. And this film, of course, was released in 1991 and is based on a fairy tale of the same name by John Marie Le Prince de Beaumont. And this film, which in my opinion did not need sequels, is none other than 1991's Beauty and the Beast. So, you guys are probably going to ask me, what do I think of Beauty and the Beast? Well, I've seen this film many times, such as when I was a little kid, for example, and I've also rewatched it many times since. And when I saw this film, I definitely really loved it, and I still love it to this day. For me, it's an absolute masterpiece when it comes to animated films. It's one of my favourite animated films of all time, and in my opinion, one of Disney's best films. Then again, the same could be said for pretty much the whole Renaissance era, because that, in my opinion, was where Disney was at its best. And I definitely really love the story of this film, with great performances from people such as Paige O'Hara as Belle, and also, as well, Robbie Benson as the Beast, and alongside others too, like Richard White as Gaston, and Jerry Orbach as Lumiere, David Ogdenstiers as Cogsworth, just to name a few, and also Dame Angela Lansbury, may she rest in peace, as Mrs. Potts as well. And I definitely think this film is just an absolute masterpiece, and it's just so much fun to watch from start to finish. And back when Disney used to be good, in my opinion. And when it comes, of course, to how the film ends, I personally think the film had a great ending, which didn't have any sequel baiting whatsoever. Because at the end of this film, of course, it ends with, of course, the spell being unbroken. Because during it, of course, the final fight with Gaston, he attacks the Beast, who is too depressed from Belle's departure to fight back. But he regains his spirit upon seeing Belle return. He then defeats Gaston, but spares his life before reuniting with Belle. But unfortunately, Gaston fatally stabs the Beast before he loses his footing and falls to his death. The Beast then unfortunately does die in Belle's arms, which is definitely, in my opinion, a very emotional scene. But then the last petal falls, and Belle tearfully professes her love to the Beast, and the spell is then undone, which revives the Beast and returns him to his human form alongside his servants in the castle. And then the Prince and Belle then host a ball for the kingdom, and they dance happily. And right there, I did not see any signs of sequel baiting whatsoever. To me, that was definitely, in my opinion, a perfect ending to a story, absolutely. However, unfortunately, despite this great ending, the success of this film unfortunately spawned sequels. And I definitely think that was a dumb move, because what I'll say is, just because a film can be well received and can do well at the box office doesn't mean it can warrant sequels being made. Because many films, as I've covered in this series, in my opinion, don't need sequels, despite doing so well. It's usually films which are bombed, which I love to see sequels to, which is very unfortunate that they're bombed. And this film unfortunately did spawn direct-to-video films. So, now, one of them, so the first one was a film that I did check out recently, and I had not seen until this year. And that was, unfortunately, of course, what is Beauty and the Beast, The Enchanted Christmas. So, I saw this film in its entirety in 1 week early this year, and compared to the absolute masterpiece, which I think is, of course, the first movie, and I think it's a 10 out of 10 masterpiece in my opinion, this one, in my opinion, absolutely sucked. Like, I really hated this film. Like, I couldn't believe how bad this film was. Like, goodness me. Like, compared to the absolutely beautiful first film, this sequel, in my opinion, was absolutely terrible. And if you guys were to ask me, was there anything redeemable about this second film? Well, I guess probably the only thing that I liked about it was of course, the appearance of Tim Curry as the villain of the film. So, I did like Tim Curry in this, and also as well, Paul Rubens in this as well, may he rest in peace, as Tim Curry's villain character's servant. So, I did like how those two were in this film, but unfortunately though, when it comes to this film though, I personally think it was really bad, because I personally feel that it made many of my fan favourite characters of the first film really unlikable, and it also as well wasted other characters too as well, which I definitely really didn't like at all. And when it comes to ruining characters, in my opinion, this second film really ruined the Beast, because it made him really unlikable. And I say Beast guys are not Prince, because guess what? despite this film being regarded as a sequel to a first film, it actually takes place before the spell is unbroken, so the characters are still there to transform themselves on the curse, so the prince is still a beast, and his servants are still the objects, like, Lumia is still a candelabra, and Cognos is still a clock, and of course Mrs. Potts is a teapot, so, and so on. So, but that creates lots of plot holes, because the events of this film are not mentioned in the original film. If it's supposed to be taking place as a midquel, as it's called, it makes no sense whatsoever, at all. And what I will say is, while I did love Tim Curry's performance in this as the villain, I personally thought the animation for his character was really weird, because in this film, guys, I think he's like a musical instrument, like a piano or something like that, I think. And in my opinion, the visual effects for him, in my opinion, were terrible. It looked like a really bad old video game. Goodness me, it was so bad. This film, in my opinion, really sucked. So, all I can say is, screw this second film all the way. But what I will say is, despite this second film being terrible, it's definitely not as bad as what came next. Because now, we get on to what is the absolute worst of what is, to me, the Beauty and the Beast franchise, although I like to pretend it's only one film. And this film, of course, was what is none other than Belle's Magical World. Now, when it comes to watching this film, I wanted to check it out to see how bad it was, because I'd heard nothing but bad news about this third film when, of course, I first heard about its existence, because I didn't know these sequels existed till recently. But many of my close friends have said it's insufferable to watch and it's just plainly unwatchable. And upon trying to watch it, they couldn't be any more true to their word. Because, guess what, guys? I tried to watch the film, and probably for the first time in a very long time, I shut it off after about 15 minutes. Because it was just plainly unwatchable and insufferable. I couldn't believe what they did. They learned nothing from Belle's Enchanted Christmas. And everyone in the film, in my opinion, was just so unlikable. Even Belle, in my opinion, was ruined too. And the Beast was also, in my opinion, much worse than the second film. Guys, if you thought the Beast was unlikable in the second film, just wait to see him in this, because in the 15 minutes of the film that I saw, he was just plainly horrible, in my opinion. And also, he's still a beast as well, not a human. So it's once again a midquel, as it's called. Doesn't make any sense. And if you guys are going to be asking me what part made me switch it off, well, after about 15 minutes of suffering, I switched it off at the Beast eating his food scene, because Belle was reading to him and he wasn't even, paying attention, so he was completely blanking her, more focused on eating his food. This was also right after they'd apparently made up too, and he was still being unlikable towards Belle. He'd learned nothing, I just had enough. I was like, I can't do this. This film is terrible. I can't see any more of this. I also hated the recasting Mrs. Potts too, due to my love for Dame Angela Lansbury, may she rest in peace, because she's one of my favourite actresses, guys. And Mrs. Potts is probably my favourite voice role of hers too. And I hate how in this third film she got recasted, because in my opinion, no one can play Mrs. Potts better than her, as far as I'm concerned. And I've been told that I saved myself lots of pain by switching it off early, and I don't doubt that for a single second at all. So, all I can say is that even with 15 minutes of watching it, I was in tons of pain watching it, because it was just so horrible. Probably the most unwatchable film I've seen in a long while, in my opinion. Wow. So, as far as I'm concerned, this film for me gets a full-on 0 out of 10, because it's just plainly unwatchable. I couldn't stand it at all. So, all I can say is, screw this film all the way, and I'm never going to watch the rest of it. No chance at all. I do not see why I should at all. So, I have no interest whatsoever in seeing it. And apparently there's also a prequel called Belle's Tales of Friendship, but I have no interest in seeing that whatsoever. I am not interested whatsoever at all. So, no chance of me seeing it. And if you're going to be asking me, will I be watching the live-action remake? Well, my answer to that is no chance, because I already know what happens in it, because people have told me about it, and I am not interested in seeing it. Mainly because I don't even like Disney's remakes these days anyway, so I have no doubt in my mind I'll probably hate this one too, so I am not going to see it. No chance. Absolutely not. I'll stick to the one and only Beauty and the Beast movie, just that one alone as far as I'm concerned. There can only be one to me. So, long story short, guys, in my opinion, Beauty and the Beast was better off as a standalone movie. So this is me covering why, in my opinion, Beauty and the Beast did not need sequels. So, you know the drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to tell us in the comments what you guys think of Beauty and the Beast. We need a sequel on, comments below what you think. Also, be sure to join Team Pamper Press and subscribe in this coming future. And I'll see you all later.